There's an episode in the Gospels of at least in Luke, maybe the others, in which Jesus is asked whether he's the Messiah. So they ask him this big question. It's kind of an ontological question. And Jesus answers by saying, I don't know the answer to that question because they haven't written the creeds yet. But go tell John that everywhere I go, transformation happens. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the dead are raised, the poor rejoice. So Jesus' answer to the big ontological question is gestures of transformation that take place in the village. So the question about how do you answer this is that the answer is very local, very neighborly, very bodily. Those are the acts of the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God probably doesn't consist in abstract generalizations, but it consists in bodily acts of neighborliness that Jesus performed.
In the particular.
In the particular.
What I love about your language, Walter, is you explain to me the idea of reperformance. So first of all, in talking about the Exodus and as a Jew, I couldn't imagine being free for 400 years. Just like I can't imagine now not shopping.
Right. Yep.
And then you say that the liturgy and the church is a reperformance of sacred text. So the local movement is a reperformance of sacred market.
That's right.
Of sacred neighborhood, sacred place. Wendell Berry says, the commodification of my experience comes when I have no affection or memory of a place. So mobility. And you see this among low-income people. They move all the time. And so it's the stabilizing of that mobility and caring about place. And that's the reperformance of everything you studied all your life.
And in the Christian tradition, Jesus is the reperformance of the Elijah-Elisha traditions. And in the Hebrew Bible, Elijah and Elisha were the great disruptors of the royal enterprise. So in the book of Kings, you have all these kings like that, and it's so boring. And then right in the middle of it, you have these narratives of Elijah and Elisha. Now, what's interesting about that for me is that scholars, when they come to the Elisha and Elijah, they say, oh, those are just legends. So folk knowledge is discounted. It's not reliable. It's not scientific, and so on. And
it's uncredentialed.
That's correct.
We call them the uncredentialed king.
That's right.
And the only one that had the power to heal.
That's right. That's
And
exactly.
so the movement, this communal movement, common good movement, is to not use credentials as a criteria for value. It means nothing. And if I see Elijah uncredentialed, nothing threatens me more than a free human being.
It's interesting about the young people wanting autonomy because the statistics of people who are moving back home in their 20s and I think even in their early 30s is an astonishing statistic of being dependent and nesting in the safety of the family.
And maybe it's a good move.
Yeah.
You know, this culture doesn't like it. So people make a living helping people in their 20s launch themselves.
Yes, right.
Like a rocket.
Yeah.
So I think the moving back home is finding place again.
Yeah.
And why not?
So you're suggesting that it's much more than an economic requirement, that it has to do with a much deeper embedment than that.
I think we know we're looking for a place to belong. I think we're trying to rediscover home. I think there's a sense that these people brought me into the world against my wishes, and it's time to stop being mad at them.
Right. Yeah.
And I know how, and so I think there's a lot to that. And
Right.
in the lens of the free market, it looks like they haven't found themselves yet.
Right.
Maybe they have.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But it's smaller. I just think it is happening, and it's rediscovering my affection for a place, perhaps.
Yeah.
But to a credentialed person, they seem incomplete. We declare people in exile. You're broken. We want to make you whole. So we want to train you. There's 100 organizations in Cincinnati job training. And so, all with goodwill, but what jobs are they training for? So the alternative is to say, well, what are you good at? You make pies? How many are you making? I sell 10 a week. Would you like to sell 20 a week? So that's kind of that's the exodus. That's what the wilderness is populated by. It's people discovering that they have enough. Whatever they know how to do has market value. I just don't want to glamorize. I got a cell phone, I got all this, it's fine. But I was fine or unfine before. I'm no more or less miserable now. Then I can track what neighborhood my daughter's in. So it's rendering it intellectually interesting. It's useful. And then I think the private sector, of its own energy, of its own listening to another generation, is reconstructing its sense of purpose. And so finding more and more books and talk about profit is not a worthy enough purpose for all this organized effort. So there's a book called Completing Capitalism, and it's using the skills of enterprise to end poverty. The skills of enterprise, not job training, not bringing Toyota to town. They're not coming. Toyota's not coming to town. Factories, $300 million factories will be built in your neighborhood, but they employ 5 people. So all this stuff is not going to happen at that level. It's going to exist at that level. But there is an alternative. It's about, but it's not just consciousness. The market used to be a place we gather on Saturday mornings to exchange goods. It didn't define my life. Now it's become a religion, and that we romanticize the market as if it's the point. And it's a certain kind of market that's organized around convenience, speed, cost, scale. And so living in this world, I have become that thing. I have defined myself by my capacity to engage in the market. To be called poor means I'm broken. Well, what's broken about me? I still have a life, I still live. What's broken is I can't participate in this dominant religion. And the religion tenet is speed, scale, efficiency. And so in order to sustain that, we have to romanticize it and call disruption of good. It's all we consider news. We're only interested in what's growing fast and long. And so that's half the story, is that this has become a romantic ideal. In the 20s, our capacity to make shoes was greater than people needed. And so marketing decided in the 30s, 40s, how do we convince people they need 20 pairs of shoes? And the idea was that no matter what you have, it's not enough. And I believe it. I think, therefore I am. Okay, I shop, therefore I am. Even though there's no such thing as customer satisfaction, whatever I buy, as soon as I get home, I need another one. And if it's technology, as soon as I get to my car, it's obsolete. And what's interesting is this is an organizing principle of our lives. And this is the prison. It imprisons my life. It's a soft, velvety, and it's very compelling. It's extremely compelling. And that's why when you talk about the exodus from what? Well, it's the exodus from the belief that I'm not enough and what I need is more. And once I believe that, then I'm yours. You own me. And upward mobility, our measure of well-being in this country is the gross domestic product. And that was invented as a measure of my materialism. When they said streets are paved with gold, we meant it.
When you talk about people who are no longer able to participate in the market, then they become dispensable people.
We need them. We need them for low-cost labor.
Yeah.
But they are placed in exile.
Yeah.
So if you ask me what your work is about, or our work is to welcome in from exile
That's right.
the people that are non-participants in this free market consumer
That's right.
culture. It's not just an economy. And so we create an industry around that. As soon as you call somebody poor, you've declared them to be broken.
Yeah.
Right.
Resistance is the opening to my freedom. I need to fight, I need to resist. My parents, at some point I need to say to my parents, I'm not the son you had in mind. Sorry about that. And as parents, you have to accept these are not the children I had in mind either. And every parent says, all I want is for my kids to be happy. That's the biggest lie in the world. I don't want my kids to be happy. I want them to live out my unfulfilled dreams, for God's sake. Why else would I rent a helicopter?
Last question. You spoke about revolutions happening because someone chose to sit somewhere else. Like
that lit the match.
you lit the match.
That made it. There was a single act that inflamed what had been working on for 60 years.
If you were to prophesize a certain singular movement to overthrow empire, or
For the alternative to empire to emerge, I don't know. I can't imagine it. This film.
See, I think
I mean it. The reason I'm sitting here is because it's going to take you and your consciousness and the poetry of your filmmaking to spread something like this. I don't think it's going to happen with a fire and explosion. If these massacres can't wake us up, then violence won't do it.
That's right.
It's going to take art to do it.
Yep.